Okay. In the course of our lifetime, most of us at one time or another will have a transforming moment when we've seen something with a perspective that we had never seen before. And this happened to me in 1999 when my sister Dolly and my brother-in-law Gerald asked me to take them to Europe to visit the places where I had been during the war. They wanted to do this for their 50th wedding anniversary. Several years earlier, I met a woman by the name of Betty Thompson. Betty had lost her first young husband on Omaha Beach on D-Day. And in a telephone conversation that I had with her before we left for Europe, Betty asked whether during our stay in Normandy would we visit the grave of that young fallen soldier, Donald Weisel. I told her that we would be honored to do that. So in the fall of the year, the three of us flew to Brussels. We then drove down to the Ardennes, the scene of the Battle of the Bulge, where we toured the area and visited with wonderful Belgian friends that I have. And in some previous visits, I would drive to the nearby American cemetery at Henry Chapelle, where many of my friends and comrades are buried. But then we drove to Normandy, to the town of Bayeux, where we would stay. And in Normandy, in Bayeux, I went to a floral shop and purchased a single red rose to place on the grave of Donald Weisel. I thought that would be more eloquent. We then drove to the cemetery, which is located on a bluff that overlooks Omaha Beach. And we were very fortunate in that we had as our guide a young lady who was very knowledgeable and very articulate. And because of the size of the cemetery, she drove us to the gravesite in her car. And she had with her a small American flag, a small French flag, and a Polaroid camera. And then as we stood and knelt by his grave, she placed a flag on either side of that white marble cross, and I then laid that solitary rose on his grave. And all the while she was telling us things about the cemetery, that there are over 9,000 young Americans buried there. But we were shocked when we were told that there were at least 38 sets of brothers buried in the cemetery, with over 30 sets of brothers buried side by side. And the reason that cut me to the quick was because my own dear wife had lost two brothers in that war, one in North Africa with the 1st Division, and the second one on a destroyer off of Okinawa, when a twin-engine kamikaze slammed into the gun turret in which he served, and there was nothing found of him even to bury. But as I had done in previous visits to cemeteries, I would walk alone among those crosses and remember how fortunate I had been, because I know that but for the grace of God, with what had happened to me in Normandy, that cemetery should be my current address. And I thought again how greatly I had been blessed. God had blessed me with a lovely wife, with 3 handsome children, 8 wonderful grandchildren. But then I multiplied 9,000 crosses times 50 years, and you come away with a staggering sum of at least 450,000 unlived years represented in that one cemetery. Just think, at least 450,000 unlived years, with all of the potential of each life and of each year. But there was something that puzzled me. I wondered why it was. Of all the cemeteries I had visited, especially the Henry Chapelle, why was it that it was always the Normandy cemetery that evoked such a deep emotional response? But then finally something occurred to me. You see, the Henry Chapelle Cemetery lies in a setting of almost perfect peace and tranquility It seems that even the birds whisper when they fly overhead. But Normandy is different. And the difference is the waves. It is the sound of the waves. It is that unrelenting sound of the waves as they wash ashore at Omaha Beach. And I thought again of the young man whose grave